In a world where hopium and common sense collide, starring the CryptoKeeper and BlockchainCrusader. Welcome to Debate Crypto. Question everything, trust nothing. It's your boys, CryptoKeeper, BlockchainCrusader, and CVO Crypto here for another Thursday night, a little TA Thursday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How is everybody doing? Miguel, Paul?
Ain't nobody here to welcome. Nobody's watching yet. But it's going to be a good night, dude.
I think that there's like a couple people, at least it's got the eyeball. It says there's like at least 2 people in here. So for the 2 that are in here, welcome. For those of you that aren't, that are going to be here later, welcome. We're super excited that you guys are here. Actually, Paul is on vacation right now. He is in, hold on. Don't tell me. He is in, what do you think, Miguel? Where do you think he is right now?
Dude, that's downtown Miami, bro. That's right there, downtown Miami.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Bye, man. I'm chilling.
I was about to say the huge, is that the Burj Khalifa behind your head?
Carl the Moon and Crypto are in the room next to me, man. It's pretty epic.
They're
left CVO left to Dubai to avoid taxes.
That's right.
from all the trading.
That's right. And you got your freaking multi-million-dollar NFT collection like on the wall. Like right now I've got like a $12 Bitcoin thing and a Biggie poster and a guitar, and they've got like a $6.2 million worth of NFTs behind them, and I'm feeling kind of a little bit less than, you know what I mean?
So. Dude, you're way more.
Well, thanks, man. That means a lot. Smash up the likes, guys. Do all the things that YouTube loves. We appreciate each and every one of you. You know what it is. It's TA Thursday. If it's your first time here on Thursday nights, we dive in with the man, the myth, the legend, CVO Crypto. We dive into the charts, and that's what tonight is all about. Let's take a little peek. Let's have Miguelito take a look at the crypto markets as a whole. Yeah, let's take a look at the crypto markets as a whole, and let's go from there. What you got, Miguel? Besides the mute button.
The mute button always has to be in effect. You never know when there's a.
I'm telling you, I'm going on strike against that damn mute button. I'm just letting you know at some point.
So,
I'm going on strike.
Daily. Some good green has come into the market. I mean, Bitcoin kind of had that, that big bounce back up that nobody was really expecting. Bombs are flying over there in Ukraine, and actually we're bouncing back. I mean, I honestly thought we were going to keep going lower or just, kind of range at that low level, not really do anything. I did not expect a bounce back in the market as quickly as we're seeing it right now. Is it sustainable? Is it a dead cat bounce? That's what we're going to be. That's what CVO's here for tonight, to answer all those questions.
Dare I say the market has been a little bit explosive today.
Too early, man.
I'm sorry, it's too early. That's actually not funny at all. I'm sorry. Yeah, no. You know what? The war volatility last night. I was telling Paul earlier. Apologize for the word joke. That actually really wasn't funny at all. But so last night I put in a short when I first heard what was going on, and woke up this morning before pre-trading and said, I have no idea what's about to happen today. All I knew was that last night the market was going to dump, and I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit here. I had a really nice trade. Made about, I think it was about 18% is what it ended up coming out to. And I actually took profits, and it's a good thing I did, because the market definitely, it was a Bitcoin short. The market definitely pumped back up. Paul, can you give us an idea? Okay, so we've got all these geopolitical things going on. Can you give us an idea what made the market pump back up? I know I heard something about people giving like 400K worth of Bitcoin to the Ukrainians, which was freaking awesome. First of all, I say, support a cause and support it with Bitcoin. But do you have any reason why technically maybe this is happening, or you think it is fundamental?
Do I think it's what? What was the last part?
Do you think it was? Do you think that there was technicals that set up for that today, the retrace, or do you think that this is fundamental?
So you know me, I don't really. I feel this sounds so.
Paul doesn't do fundamentals.
Not that I don't do it, but I just I don't pay attention to it as much as anybody else. I really couldn't tell you what really, even today, right? I didn't know there was a speech by Biden. I guess that I think that people were talking about that being a case, and whether or not that was or not. I mean, I guess around the time frame that speech was going on, you had this move and whatever. But I just look for the levels, man, and it's whether it's correlated to the news or not. That's I guess to be determined by yourself, right? Like that's however you're going to optimize your own strategy. But I really don't pay too much attention to it, and maybe I should more. I know that everybody always kind of harps me about it, but I don't have usually don't have an issue with it, right? So like I'll go in and talk, like show you kind of what we were looking at here. So for one thing, a small thing, I just actually noticed it right before we just jumped back on here. Was that on last week when we opened up on Sunday night into Monday? Even though that the regular markets were closed, the CME futures market did open up. It pumped a little bit at the time, and it left about $100 or $200 window here for a CME futures gap. Note where we basically shot right up to today. So that's very interesting, just to kind of note as a side note. I don't think that really holds too much weight, but that's just something to add in here. For Bitcoin, however, if you watch the last week's video of us on here, right, we were talking about the range that we were looking at. It wasn't this one at the time, and maybe I might have brought it up this one because this is the prehistoric range from last year, basically. So this is a range that we basically fell back into over the last few days. We were looking at this other one where the range high basically came in here. I'll kick it on here to kind of just show you what I'm talking about here. But it was on last week's video, right? We were literally going through this range as it was unfolding. We're looking to hold the range low. These ranges are a bit dynamic now as we're building them out, especially if you're tracking them in the time that you are. So think of it like a candle, right? A candle body. If you're tracking this over a week or a month and that month hasn't closed or that quarter hasn't closed or whatever time frame, the range low, range high, they can adjust, right? Because these are based on volume. So it depends on how some of the price action does unfold here for you. So at the time, actually, our range low is coming in right here. Now it's back up to here. And that's important in a sense for where we're going to go here in a second. Regardless, we started falling into this previous range, right? So and the way these ranges work, right? We talk about this all the time. Once you re-enter a range, you really need, you got a couple of options here. You get accepted back into it. You got the range high at the time is going to act as resistance. And then you got major support down at the range low generally, right? And then you got a couple of speed bumps in the middle. You got your point of control, which is a major volume target. And then you got the middle of the range basically right here, this dotted line. Those two levels are your mid centers, so to speak. And you kind of want to pay attention to those. You lose those indefinitely, right? And you basically head down to the range lows. So with that being said, we re-entered this previous.
How likely is it through your TA? Do you have a probability of how likely you are to keep or hold that monthly open? Or
so the monthly open, I'm glad you just mentioned that, right? So that's pretty much the only thing I have on here at the moment, because we talk about how important it is to be above the monthly open, right? So we've lost the monthly open. We've been kind of just grasping at it a couple times. That was also one of the indicators when we lost that the other night that we were going to see lower. This point of control came in right here about 35,800, and you can see where we pretty much based off of was the middle of this range here, right? So we turned around earlier today. This is the 4-hour time chart. So earlier today when we were watching this, this is before whatever happened, right? Speeches, anything of that nature. We basically regained this point of control, right? You're hugging it. So essentially, I mean, if you're looking at this for a trade, you don't necessarily want to get into a trade in the middle of the range here, but if you did, you could put a stop loss down below here, right? And then this is kind of where things could take off. We basically ran it back to the top of the range here, and overtook this monthly open as well, which is what you want to see. We actually just closed the daily now a little bit above the monthly range, which is a good sign as well. And then realistically, what we ended up running back all the way up to, if you remember last week when we were talking about these key levels, we have a 2-year key level up here at 39,800, and we literally just ran it back straight there, right? Got the rejection from there for the moment. And this is that level we were looking at last time, the 2-year key level right here. So basically, you ran it straight back up. Obviously, you got a little bit overbought on this is the 1-hour time frame, but you still got plenty of room everywhere else, essentially. And now we basically pumped back out of this range, which is what you want to see. Living in this range would not be a great thing, right? This is the bottom of this range comes in at 32,200. And with that being said, too, there is we have a doomsday setup, right? This is what we've been talking about a couple of times as well. These two targets down here are volume targets. One of them was hit back in the January fall, right? We came down and tagged this one. A little surprising that we didn't tag this one as here. This was a weekly NPOC, so this is a major volume target, right? Generally, these get back tested. So with us being this close here today, we were, if we didn't regain this point of control, that coming down here was pretty likely. We're not necessarily out of the woods on this idea yet either, right? And we really want to pay attention to see how we hold up over this monthly open at the moment. But basically, yeah, that's, we fell straight into here, right? Had some sells come in last night, and maybe it's based on the news. Who knows? Like I said, I say the term "who knows." Let's just say it was, right. Everybody, it was timed. I mean, everything is lined up around there. To me, even if you weren't paying attention to the news at that exact moment, right? If you had alerts or anything like that set up to let you know that once you lost this level, you were heading down, obviously, and we had these, next levels here to pay attention to. Regardless, held here, regained the point of control. We basically just ran it straight back, right? Short squeeze probably came in here to some degree. I'm sure some people.
Quick question.
Yep.
So when we had that drop below the point of control, right? Was there anything that could have indicated or told you, hey, maybe we're gonna come back up, we're gonna have a reversal here, or is it just kind of like a wait and see moment where it's just like we don't know, we just lost this point of control, and there's no way to determine if we're gonna come right back up or we're gonna go all the way down to that monthly NPLC, that 33K level?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, at the time, it's really just have your reactions in place here, because you really wanted to kind of see how this unfolded. This morning, for example, we were coming back up, and it looked like we were going to back test this POC, and if this was not regained, right, essentially you'd be looking lower. You'd be looking for that breakdown. Once we did kind of regain this here, right now that kind of changes things a bit. Now you're watching for this to kind of hold and look forward. Once again, you can set stop losses right below here, right? Because this could have just turned down as well. But from here, then you look back up to the range high. Broke straight through the range high. You got your monthly open, and then you got your 2-year key level up here. Now we're back testing this range high here. Excuse me. And you want to see this monthly open kind of held, not kind of really held on a closing basis, on at least 4-hour candles and really the daily. And ever since we pumped back up there today, we've been looking at, you got 1 4-hour candle basically that closed there ish, like it's right above it basically. And then the daily actually just did close as well. And once again, it's just barely right above it. You do have a bullish engulfing candle essentially here on the daily time frame as well. So paying attention to today, closing a daily back above this monthly open will be a good sign, right? We still got some, a lot of overhead above us, but we start breaking back into this range. And to answer your question too, right? It's just, you got to pay attention right now, right? It's not just a solid, we're going straight up, or, we could turn back around here. Getting rejected right here at the moment. With that amount of push to the upside, it's just about as big as that move to the downside last night. You just kind of have to see how things unfold here, but you should have some areas of interest for you to pay attention to, right? So losing 38,200 this monthly open is one of those levels to really be paying attention for. You start getting back below that, closing back below, and re-entering this range at about 38K. Most likely we're going back down to that point of control again at about 36K. At that point, you want to pay, it really is a level by level situation, right? And that's kind of what I'm looking at the moment. And if we do, let's just say this turns around from here. So 2 things, I guess, of note is this weekly NPOC is still a major play right now. Okay.
Why? What tells you that weekly is still a major play?
So
since we're all the way up here now, why would you think that we're going to go all the way down there?
Because we really haven't, we just closed one like half a second of a daily candle above this right now. So if we close a whole daily candle above the monthly open, then maybe we can start looking back up. We really want to regain this 2-year key level. But then it's really down to this, which we've talked about. This box was actually created when we fell into this area right here. So until we start living above this box again, these lower levels are still activated, so to speak, right? So this is basically keeping us down in a sense of overall ranges. What this area is that this is actually entering us into the previous yearly range. So if we cannot get back above here, we're pretty much living within this the realm right here. So very important to get through this, let's just call it 41, 42K to start reliving into reimagining the upside momentum continuing in the short term here. So just the time to pay attention, crucial time, obviously.
Yeah. So I would like to, I'm going to mix in some of the news stuff for the people that are not fully up to date. So yes, Biden did give a speech. They are moving more troops to the NATO countries, right? And At the same time, Russia is shutting down a oil pipeline. Obviously, they're not because they're trying to limit the business that Russia can do with the rest of Europe or the rest of the world, and that is obviously going to cause more inflation because now gas prices are going to shoot up. Right, there's less oil in Europe, less oil in the United States in general. So now they're trying to tap into the reserves, try to keep prices down, and I'm pretty sure that they're going to be pointing at this war as a case for more inflation, right?
Could
For
this be a case
supply
for more
chains.
printing, Mr. Miguel? That you
Yeah, 100%. Exactly. It's already being talked about, right? It's going to cost money to be moving all these troops, to be moving all this equipment, and they're going to have to print more money. So it's going to be a way to point for more inflation causes. And at the same time, what was it? The situation with the NATO countries is that they're trying to sanction Russia right now, right? But they're not willing to take Russia off the SWIFT system just yet because they said that was doing too much too fast. I think invading a country within a week is doing too much too fast.
because they knew that Russia was going to say, "Oh, sanctions, no longer SWIFT system. Hello, Bitcoin."
Exactly, right. And they don't want that conversation to be in mainstream focus when everybody's focusing on Russia and focusing on what's happening over there right now. They don't want that to be a headline. Russia evades sanctions, goes into Bitcoin, right? Russia leaves SWIFT system to go use Bitcoin. And along follow suit with China and whatever other allies they have. They don't want that as a headline. That it's going to cost them more money in the long term if Bitcoin does that, and it hurts the dollar more than if they just keep them on the SWIFT system and keep things, financially peaceful with them as long as they can. But yeah, Biden's speech, kind of riled people up into like, yeah, we're gonna sanction them and we're gonna, we're gonna crush them. But it's not gonna do much. It's not gonna really do a lot of anything. And this is all already pre-planned by Russia. Russia knows that these things were gonna happen. They knew the SWIFT system conversation was gonna come up. They knew that these sanctions were gonna happen. They've been loading up on reserves, and they've been talking about getting into Bitcoin mining and getting into Bitcoin in general. So I think this is all another thing to point out. This is all an indicator pointing towards the kind of like the reversal for Bitcoin a little bit. Is gold's been dropping? Why is gold dropping? Gold is supposed to be a hedge against inflation, a hedge against bad times, and gold is dropping. Yet Bitcoin, I don't understand. Bitcoin's been dropping too for the past couple of weeks, but Bitcoin's having a bigger bounce back right now, and maybe this feeds the fuel for Bitcoin adoption. I don't know. What do you think,
I think
Nick?
it does. I think it has to. I think ultimately, yes, I agree with you that the war, whether intentional and used for this or not, this will be another factor where they can point the finger and say, "Well, this is this is what caused all these problems. What do you want us to do? We have we've got inflation already blasting off. We have already issues with supply chain, and now this just is another distraction or something to be able to point at to say, hey, this is why." Remember when we look back, it's like, well, remember also the war kicked off. Then it's like, whoa, wait a minute. These problems were already absolutely ready to explode at the point that the war even came into focus. And so, yeah, I do think that it is going to be another case for Bitcoin. I think that it's ultimately going to be another case for crypto because we're seeing, but I also think it's another case for the great reset as a whole. And I think I saw somebody in the chat say something about the great reset. And let's be real, I don't know if you heard it, but last week Klaus Schwab was openly talking about this great reset. Like, it's not like they're trying to hide it anymore. Now it's about, hey, how can we position this? How can we have this conversation without really freaking people out? And I don't know what it's going to look like. Obviously, if I did, we would obviously all be ahead of things and try to position ourselves as perfectly as possible. But all I do know is that there are a lot of things coming to a head, and it'll be very interesting to see which way this, ends up moving.
Yeah, 100%. So CVO got or Paul, I have a question for you. So a lot of altcoins have taken massive hits, right? Besides the dependency of obviously Bitcoin moving the market, can you extract that from your TA and just focus on the pure technical analysis of a coin, or do you always have to consider Bitcoin's massive movements up and down to an altcoin? right? Let's talk about, like, let's say Cardano right now, right? Cardano's dropped below $1. We saw it dropped all the way to like 83 cents or something like that, back up to 93, like the 80s or something.
So I mean, it's you have to be aware of Bitcoin's movement, especially in a downtrend, right? Like if Bitcoin is even remotely bullish, and that just means even just trending sideways, the altcoins can run. And the altcoins all have their own, technicals. And, when you start seeing, like for, what did you just say? Cardano, right? That's the one you're talking about. So Cardano, for example, here, right? We were looking at this the other day, and basically you had your range here, and, we actually broke out of this on the 21st. So depending on what Bitcoin was doing back then, what is today?
Today's the 24th.
So this was Sunday, I think, whatever. Broke out of this range, came back tested it. So at this point, you can assume you're going lower. So we're already looking for, the next major levels down here, this daily level and this monthly level. And at the time when I pointed this out in the Discord too, you're looking at these things and seeing like, okay, what would, a 22-25% move out of Cardano to the downside. If you're going to be anticipating that, you kind of have to anticipate that Bitcoin, it's kind of implying that Bitcoin is going to take a fall with it too. So to get to these levels, and once again, you don't know they're coming, of course, but if you're going to be looking for them, then yeah, you'd probably want to pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing as well. And understanding that if Cardano, ETH, any of these bigger coins here are going to be taking a hit like that, generally they don't just fall out of nowhere, unless they just came off of a major rip to the upside. But yeah, we came down, you lost the point of control right here. You came back down to the range low. As soon as you lost that range low, then you're looking to the next levels here. And that would just be a good example there. Another really good example of this is actually would be ETH, I guess. And then Quant is another good one that we've been looking at too. So ETH essentially had the same deal here, right? We got the range low coming in all the way back down here. Our point of control is actually way over here as well. So for anybody, I'll just make
what number is that? I can barely see it. It's like what, 2100?
The range low would be down at 170. So the other day, for example, when we're watching this, we were coming down, we were grinding into at the time, the low of the range for Bitcoin, and that was at 36K, 36.6. So you're kind of watching to see how that reacts. Then we started seeing Bitcoin take that fall. And once again, when you're looking at ETH's next major levels here, basically, if we lost this golden pocket, it was going to be this point of control coming in. So for that to be said, you're talking, that wasn't much, right? 4-6%, I guess, from where the level that it was at, though. You're talking about a 10% move to the downside. It actually went a little bit lower here. And we were looking for this 6-month level here, or the range low again, which once again, these, to anticipate this, you have to imply that Bitcoin is going to be taking a hit as well. So that's how we want to pay attention to Bitcoin at those key levels when it starts getting down to those range lows, like it was the other day. So I mean, yeah, there's ways to kind of indicate both, but yeah, you really
so none of the altcoins are going to make a move one way or the other without Bitcoin's permission, kind of situation, right?
Pretty much, man. I mean, it's, obviously as the market picks back up, it's when Bitcoin runs back up, right? So you really do have to pay attention to Bitcoin. I mean, it's like, granted, I know it's not the same thing.
When would it be that like altcoin season where the altcoins get the main focus and Bitcoin kind of stays behind? Do you think we're still going to have that? Or you think the markets have changed completely now with institutional play and Bitcoin is always going to be the main hyper focus driving the rest of the altcoins? And we're not going to experience these like massive altcoin runs without Bitcoin.
I mean, just like the time when, back in the end of the year last year, when we just went from, let's take a look back at Bitcoin, right? We'll kind of go over this. And it's kind of like the idea we've been going over where, looking at this just as a giant range over the last few, over a year now. And when we looked at the range from, even back in 2018, right? If you're going to look at it like, if you think that this was the end of the bull run, which I do not, but it is different, right? So it is a different beast this time around for sure. And you kind of nailed it on the head right there. Last time we were talking on this too, is that, I was a big advocate, don't get me wrong. And I'll admit it till, whatever, but I was looking for that 4-year cycle type of deal to play out by the end of last year, have a big blow off top, 200K Bitcoin. I still think that 200K Bitcoin is in the cards here for us at some point. You just don't know the time frame at this point. But one thing that changed about crypto I guess two things to think about, right, is that, as the market cap does expand, right, we had this run up back here, and this was only $800 million total in this market cap. And then, you had everything exploding in that time frame, whatever. I mean, this was still a pretty good run right here. This could almost be considered a blow off top, honestly, the way that this, exploded up with the market cap size that it was. But what I want to point out here is that this day right here changed the game, because this is when institutions were able to enter the market, right? This is CME futures open. Now you got the shorts coming in. Now you got leverage plays. We had leverage before with BitMEX or Bittrex or whoever, but like I said, the institutions are definitely, a major key now. And they're the king of taking profits, and they know how to run this market, right? And they, when you're looking at only patterns or, certain things that just kind of the retail trader looks for, it's a little, it's rough when everybody's looking at the same thing, right? We know that when you're looking, everybody's looking at that inverse head and shoulders, last week, and then, look at what happened, quite the opposite. So what do you see here, right? Over the course of this, bear market, bull, whatever you want to consider this, essentially this was just a huge range, right? You ranged it out. Eventually it did break to the upside. And here we are, right? This lasted, of course, a couple years. Where we are now is, people may think that November was the high, whatever. But realistically, we've been ranging in this, little realm here for over a year now, right? So since January of last year, you run it up, you run it back down, you run it up, you got a little deviation here, and you run it back down. Could we come back down to the lows? Very, very well could. And then essentially, we're probably going to run it back at some point here. Whether we break that to the upside or not, that's to be the question. And we'll have
quick question.
Yep.
Quick question. Sorry to interrupt. So, like, you're talking about these ranges, right? And usually when TA patterns, they have a price target if they break up or down. Do these ranges, this type of TA, have a target in mind? Like, can you measure out the target of, well, if we break out of this range, we're going to hit 150K, or no, it doesn't work that way?
Not from the range itself. But you can extrapolate price action from, pulling fibs here and getting fib extensions. We're still in that realm of, even I know somebody's in there is talking about the 200K and whatever, but if you're pulling the fib line from the previous high to the low, then yeah, we're still like right in the midst of that 1.618 level right here. And then the next level up is at 124, I believe. And then you got, 206 is the top, the 272. But like I said, that's obviously a ways away if we get there. But regardless, what I brought this all up for was your question about the altcoins and how they run and everything like that. And if, for anybody that remembers, right, this was January to May last year. This is when VeChain, Solana, Quant, everything was exploding, right? Not just those, but those are just good. Matic, these are 50x movers that occurred during this run up in Bitcoin from 30 to 60K. So for this 100% move in Bitcoin, you had, 50x gainers out of altcoins. This move right here, this was kind of the birth of the metaverse tokens, the gaming tokens, not the birth, but this is where they all really took off pretty heavily, in that sanction or that sector. And you had Mana, you had, Sand, you had all the metaverse, all the gaming, all the NFT, tokens and everything. Once again, just on this 100% move out of Bitcoin, you were seeing 10x movers, 20x movers, on Coinbase alone, we were seeing, 500% movers over a weekend. So it's pretty big action, right? Once the market gets very confident again, it's just it took really until even this point to get the market confident back in the end of last year. The market was already pretty confident by here, obviously, because we just rallied up from 20K. I think this was this portion here, though, if you remember, was also a time frame where everybody was like, nah, it can't keep going, it can't keep going. So it was really disbeliefy over here. This one ran it back. So imagine if we get that run up once again, and let's just say you do have the risk that you could break to the downside as well. But in my opinion, I foresee us running it back to some degree. Maybe it's not to the all-time high. Maybe we get back to the 58K level or whatever, like the 0.702 everybody's looking for, and then you get this pullback once again to the range low, and then at the end of the year, this year, maybe we finally get that run up. Maybe this year is the blow off top towards the end of this year. Things that people wouldn't expect, right?
So you think within this year we can range back up to all-time high, come back down, and then range back up again within these next 12 months?
Pure speculation, but yeah, why not?
Obviously.
Look at what we did last year. This was January of last year, and this was, January of this. This was 1 year of time. We ran it back twice. You know what I mean? So just something, speculative at the moment,
Anything's
for
possible,
sure.
right?
But yeah, you know, I'm just saying that like if we do see a move like this, and it doesn't even have to be back to the range high, but just in general, what I'm saying is that 100% move out of Bitcoin from here will definitely result in these altcoins running it back pretty well. Also, and not to mention the altcoins in both turns, right, have been beaten down, right, to 80, 90. I mean, and it's not just the small caps or mid caps.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking.
So I had a question about that, right? Like altcoin. So let's look at Solana real quick. Solana's been down like 60 something percent or 50 something percent in the last like 90 or 60 days or whatever it is. Is Solana, everybody was talking about it being the ETH killer. Everybody was talking about it hitting $1,000, right? Is it over? Did Solana tap out? Did it burn out too quickly and it has no gas left to come back up? Is this its new levels? These like sub 100, maybe like 140, the best it can do?
So once again, it really is based on Bitcoin, right? So if when you go back to what we we're just looking at, if Bitcoin runs it back, what I mean by that is if Bitcoin picks, and mind you, we can still go down to 29, 30K. That's really the bottom area of this range, right? That would be nowhere different than we were. So, and this is another thing to think about if you're wrapping your head around the news and all this and all that. Nobody wants to see a war, of course. But with that, if that's the catalyst that brought us down to $34,000, maybe we're not done yet. Maybe it does come down to 30. Just think back to last summer when it was just a China ban, and we had that was the reason, right? That was the news behind it, and it was a 50% pullback in one day, or give or take. But it was a pretty drastic move all at once, all on May 19th. So. Regardless, if Bitcoin starts moving back to the upside, like I said, you're going to get these altcoins moving again too. And you're right? So Solana did see from top to bottom, a 70% downfall. But reminder here is that December, let's just say January of last year, so 13 months ago, January of last year, Solana was $5. December, 1 month prior to that, Solana was $1. So this ran up 258x in the course of, let's call it a year. So yeah, I mean, to get this kind of a pullback, it's not completely out of the cards. It sucks for anybody buying, obviously, along the high side of it. But that's one of those things you got to look for, right? Even when you're investing in any of these things, like Phantom's another one, anything that's up 50 to 100x in the last 12 months. Cardano's another big one, right? We talk on that one all the time. That was 3 cents. 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, whatever the case may be. And all these things, it's, they get a lot of heat for it, for having these pullbacks, but it's, when you look at it like that, it's not that it doesn't, it doesn't necessarily it's not that it's odd, I guess. But anyways, to answer your question, you step by step, once again, Solana does have a lot of downside here if we do lose some levels here. So say Bitcoin does start melting to the downside, Solana's probably going to drop back down to $43. From there, that would be like
soon.
I'm sorry.
If it loses this level that it's at right now, of
more so just like looking at just kind of like thinking ahead with Bitcoin, right? If Bitcoin really just melts down 32K, 31K, right, from where we are now, that's probably going to be that last little move to the downside for these altcoins as well. And yeah, I mean 43 might be a little high. I'll kick it on here. What we're looking at here. So $45, so 45, 37. That's really the next major level coming into play, for Solana. If pretty much if you lose this little bit of support you got over here, if you want to call this that. So that's one of those things, though, right? It kind of all depends on Bitcoin. So with that being said, if you're looking into getting into Solana, it's always have some dry powder on the side, so to speak, or like once again, even if you're in Solana already and you do wake up one day to a $43. Area, just kind of understand that that's kind of the why behind it, right? There's really nothing supporting this level, but it also does come down to Bitcoin right now too. So if Bitcoin doesn't just completely melt to the downside, then Solana's probably going to pick it back up. You got this monthly open up here, $99, reclaim that, and it's off to the races, right? So it's just the whole market is really dependent on Bitcoin right now, as it always is pretty much. But while we're in these downtrends, because we're still in a downtrend, it's just very important to pay attention to that. We're going to get these little bounces, because even this bounce here was nice, right? You got it's probably a 70, 80% bounce, 50% bounce, sorry. A couple of the other altcoins, from the low to the high, from the $33,000 pullback, saw a nice little run up as well. And then once again, Biddy takes the fall. So it's really just kind of based around that. But yeah, I mean, these altcoins you can, so to answer your question too, is like when you're analyzing some of these altcoins, you can see, you kind of have to make this thesis here, like, okay, I got my levels here. As far as support goes right now, you got this small range that we're pretty much holding us up. You got this support over here that's, almost nothing. And then, because you got to think about the how this is all built out, is somebody's buying and selling at these levels. So the people that are all bought in right here, they're barely holding you up right here, right? Because they don't want to sell it and be in a loss, essentially, right? If you're going to think about it anyway. Very, very simple version of thinking of it like that. But if these guys start selling off, right, like, then it's coming all the way back down to here. This is your yearly key level all the way back down to $46. But once again, looking at this, you're looking at a 50% move from here. So what would that mean for the market as a whole? Well, it probably implies that Bitcoin's going to have to be taking a 20% drop, right? And then you're talking the whole market's going to see moves like this across the board. So that's where you just kind of have to have that, like, these ideas in mind. It's not necessarily super cut and dry to be like, we're definitely going down there. But if, you kind of have the context of what's going on, if you're going to be paying attention fundamentally, if you pay attention to Bitcoin's price action as well, the markets, whatever, however you kind of formulate your own thesis there, that would kind of indicate that. So, and then once again, like I said, things turn around tomorrow, Bitcoin starts picking up the pace. We regain this monthly open. You got a couple key levels up here, find some home above that, and you're off to the races.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, I mean, I'm not, obviously, we said it before, not a trader, right? Most people watching are probably not traders themselves. That's why, you got to have some, like you said, some money on the side for, dollar cost averaging opportunities, because we can drop a lot lower, right? There is that possibility, but there's also the possibility that maybe we start having that reversal. And if people just wait and say, I'm not buying until we hit 40 or 45, right? And I'm just not going to buy. What if we have the reversal now and we never reach those levels? People miss out completely. Then they're going to be buying $100 Solana when they could have been buying, $80 something right now instead of $100. If they buy now, and the worst case we do drop lower, well, when you dollar cost average, you shouldn't be dropping all of your capital all at once. You drop small percentages of your capital and slowly dollar cost average on the way down, worst case scenario, and then on the way up back up, you're making money level by level. But that's the non-trader side of things. I know, as a trader yourself, you don't do that. You're not going to be dollar cost averaging on the way down just in case. You're going to wait for that opportune moment.
I mean, but at the same time, I have I have some holds too, that, like, I would, though, like, that would be the case. Like right now is like an area between, those $40 about, if you were really big into Solana, that would be exactly what you'd want to do. Right. I mean, you don't want to just, be trading actively your entire portfolio. And if, generally, if that's what, and I'm just a side note here too, real quick. So VeChain, for example, had a very similar run up to Solana, right, and popped all the way to 17th of April was when it topped, fell, and is currently at the low of 85% to the downside, right? Solana at the current price is only down. I know it says only, but the reason I bring this up, because if Solana drops to $43, for example, which once again, that really would imply like a whole market meltdown for the most part. So I'm not saying that's going to happen for sure, but that would be only an 84% pullback from the high. So when you look at some of these other ones that have had similar, moves here, it's not totally out of the realm after seeing such a move to the upside for that. But yeah, I mean, as far as a DCA strategy would go, I mean, like we just looked at that range with Bitcoin, right? You're talking about anybody that bought in at, the summer lows of last year, I don't even know where the price, was compared for some, we're pretty much back there for a lot of altcoins, I guess you could say. But, at the time, from when we ran it up to November time, everything exploded, right? But it took 5 months to get there. The 3 months that we remained at those low levels were just like now, sketchy, scary. There's always, I know right now the news is really rough, but back then, man, and you know what's going to come around the corner here. as we're walking into a new season, right? So you had your fall time variant, you had your December variant. Well, we're walking into spring, guarantee we're going to have another variant. Or, don't guarantee, but what's not to say we don't get another variant here in a couple of weeks too, to just kind of pile it on, and just really force all this negative news around. And then slowly,
I think with this whole war situation happening, they're gonna hyper focus on that, and the whole fog around the world is just gonna, fugazi itself.
Well, you
into
know what? I think it's
nothingness.
more than that. I think on top of that, I think that it also has to do with midterms coming up, right? Let's be real. The reality is what's pressed out in front of you and what's shown is not always what's happening in the background. And I think that it's very, very convenient that we have the midterm elections coming up. And without getting deep into the political side of things, the reality is if you look at what the polls right now say, there's not going to be, a Democrat, in a seat, right? That like literally Republicans are going to sweep the floor as of right now. And so ultimately one of the things that they're looking for is we've got to do something here. And if we can point and say, oh, we defeated the fog, right? If we defeated the fog and or we make a good play here with the war going on now all of a sudden we've got something different. My question as it relates to technical analysis, Paul, I know you said that.
Sorry to interrupt, Nick. Before we jump back into technical analysis, I just wanted to show something on my screen real quick before we jumped back into it. And we were talking about, the summer and the profits and what's going on since last summer. Just wanted to show you guys, if you're patient enough, the only people that have lost money are these people right here in this small red situation, right? Which starts about January 2021 to now, right? So in the last year alone is the only, and within that year there was a time, July, right? Yeah. You're still in the green if you bought in July in the summer, and the people that bought before then and after then are in red right now. And look at all these years in the past. This little red section right here. I don't know if you guys need me to zoom in more to see this better. Let me zoom in a little bit.
It's going to look like a blip on the radar, man.
Exactly. This little green area, red area right here, it's going to look like this, guys, in a couple of years. It's going to look like this massive opportunity. Be like, wow, right? It's always in the near-sighted term do we have the red. Long term, it's always green. Profitable days holding Bitcoin, 92% of the time of the percent is profitable. Total number of days, 4,200 are profitable. Number of days holding Bitcoin, 3,883. So it's the long-term play, baby. Oh, I just did a zoom in there and just messed everything up.
No, you're totally correct, Miguel. And that was actually part of what I was actually kind of a good transition there too. Part of what I was going to say was it is that long-term game. And I have a question as it relates to TA, but I wanted to just circle back to what I was finishing saying. Like my question would be, and I maybe you asked this, Miguel, while I was gone. I apologize. I had to take care of my baby. Is there, and so knowing that we have a lot going on in the news, Paul, that ultimately, whether you pay attention to it or not, does it change your trading strategy? And I apologize if you already asked this, but does it change the actual strategy? Because you know that it's happening, whether you actually pay attention to it or not. Does it? Because I guess what I'm thinking, my mind tells me this is either going to be exponentially easier to trade. Like last night, I mean, literally, I feel like a person with half a brain could have shorted that last night when that news came out, right? Well, I mean, I did it, right? And I just literally was like, yeah, that's money right there. And so my question is, does it actually change anything for you, or is there any sort of a different strategy whatsoever? Because there are unpredictable things, obviously, that will always be happening. So does it change anything?
No, I mean, like I said, like even last week for anybody here, right? Like I said, watch last Thursday's video. We kind of covered the current range we were in, and I'm pretty sure that I would have covered the range that we fell into now, because I've been touching on that for quite a while. But as long as you have, even though we brought up the 32 too, right? Like, maybe that doesn't happen, and that's the thing. But it's like you got to have your validation points on what changes that, right? So the thing is that we don't know where the market's going, right? So you can only expect plan on it. You trend certain ways. Right now we're not trending anywhere. We are straight up just ranging. So like you got to really take it level by level. But as soon as we lost the $3,600 level last night, knew we were going down. So you had those levels that were next, which was that point of control at 35.8. You had the middle of the range coming in about 34.9, which is pretty much where we based off of. And if we lose that, or if we, and then still, if we come back down, we lose that, then we're probably looking down at that $32,000 level. Then you start paying attention, right? Because as you can see, the market settles, right? You don't just get straight downward moves for 20 hours straight. Right. We reclaim that point of control slowly, right? So you're watching that, and then if you're going to be, doing anything there, you're also looking at, we have open interest and order flow that we pay attention to as well. So you can actually see as like, market orders are coming into the market, who, how many active longs versus shorts, that it's not just a lagging indicator by any means. So
is that something they can get from you in your Discord?
Yeah.
That's something you guys are talking about in your Discord?
Yeah, we just actually unrolled that today to just kind of introduce everybody to it. But it's a pretty big resource as far as just kind of having a good gauge on. Once again, it's another indicator at the end of the day, but it's a very strong indicator, right? So it's not all tools are created equally in a sense, right? So but anyways, so like, when we were basing off that point of control, which, I could bring up, but just in general, we were just talking out here, which was that 35,800 today. We basically just sat there. And then as you could have put a stop loss below there if you were going to be looking for a trade in the interim, or, at the same token, at that exact moment, what I was doing in the group was I was going through and checking out altcoins. And like I was telling you earlier, right? Avalanche, Quant, a couple other, Oceans. I was just kind of catching all these coins that were coming into major support, or they were re-entering their ranges. So while, if Bitcoin was to lose the point, you got to kind of gauge everything together. But to answer your question, it doesn't change my strategy at all, right? So it just actually made today a really good trading day, like you said. And then when we got that run up, straight back to the 2-year key level, right? Straight back to the 2-year key level.
Still, ultimately what you're saying is the news will affect it very short term, but at the end of the day, the dust is kind of settling around the same areas, unless you have that just once in a, multi-year, absolute black swan event that just crushes everything. Other than that, it does range back. I want to take a quick pause real quick. So Andrew, thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate, as you call it, the 5 beans, my brother. And Natalie, same here. Natalie, I appreciate someone that's willing to troll Heidi. So I almost want to send the super chat right back to you so that you can send it again and then troll Heidi. We can send it back and forth throughout the stream, and we can just actively troll Heidi throughout the stream. And then Heidi, I did see you earlier tossing out a super chat as well. So thank you guys all for the support on the channel. We genuinely appreciate it.
But yeah, to answer your question, it's and once again, like looking at all this, and I'm not saying that the news and everything like that doesn't play a role, right? Because it obviously is at least correlated in time. Whether or not that's the reason that, millions of people across the world at the exact moment somehow are paying attention to the news and decided to sell out of their stocks and their, you know what I mean? Like when you start thinking of it like that, it's a little odd. But regardless, at the exact moment that, our president said something today on a speech that was somewhat bullish, everybody rushed to their phone to buy Bitcoin. I doubt that, you know what I mean? So it's like, but having those, the levels in play, like where did we hit? Like it's all, it's the same 6, 7, 8 lines that I've been paying attention to for the last, several weeks. So it's just kind of knowing that, and being patient as well. And in the sense of like, we may not get to the 32K, right? But when we do, I got a plan for it, right? I'm not gonna be panicking like anybody else, or not going to have like a question over my head of like, why is this happening and this and that. For one, that's a major volume target that is, the market as far as efficiency is probably going to go back and retest at some point. So even if we backed it up to where Miguel and I were just going over the range in Bitcoin, we were looking at, maybe we run it back up, from here till summertime again. And hey, May comes around and it's sell in May and walk away again. And we run it back down.
That would be wild. That would be
58,
wild.
60K and drop it all the way back down to 32 again. Right. And then we literally relive last year, something of that nature. And then by the end of this year, maybe we actually come through with that blow off top. Who knows? Right. And this is just speculation at the point. I'm not saying that that's what's anticipated, but regardless, it's interesting to note that if World War III, so to speak, was announced last night, and we literally had some of the worst type of situations going on in the world, right? With obviously, world conflict going on, that it had no different scenario than a Fed meeting had last month when we dropped to 33K.
That's a really good point.
So that's, or whatever it was, it might've been the Kazakhstan energy thing, but whatever the case may be, that's just something to pay attention to. And then also, like I said, look at the turnaround today. Like if anybody, like you will get so much whiplash, man, paying attention to the news and trying to dissect what that means and how you should interpret it. Because anybody today, when we were sitting down at 35K for 8 hours, how many people panicked? I know how many people panicked sold. I saw it in our group. Even people were telling me that they were, cutting losses and and it was the worst possible time. And then you shoot up 15%, and guess what you did there? Anybody that decided to, get out is either on the sideline now and really sweating, or people that open up shorts, you shot it up 15% over the course of like 4 hours. So that knocked out almost everybody in higher leverage longs. And even if you got a small leverage long, you're sweating too, because now it's 5%, and then you're going to knock out at least 5x or lower. So,
man, I'm telling you, dude, I literally, when I woke up and I was staring at the profit and the P&L, and I was like, I need to exit this trade. Like I was looking at it, and I'm
getting better. You're getting better.
So here was the struggle, right? So I'm looking at it, and I know in my mind that I have no freaking clue what today was going to bring. I just knew that last night overnight we were going to dump for a while, right? And I just remember looking at it this morning, and like the smarter part of my brain said, "Listen, Nick, you don't have any freaking clue what this day is going to bring. Take your profits and bow out." And I'm so glad that I did. And I think that that's just a little simple, what's the word I'm looking for? Just a little tidbit for everybody in here, that it's one of the hard things I really have doing is not taking the home run, right? I took the single, I took the double, and I've started to try to do that more and more. And guess what? My trading portfolio is getting bigger. It's not doing this, boom, 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 boom. It's like actually like stepping up and stepping up and stepping up. And I appreciate, Paul, you've helped us with that. I know Miguel can attest to that as well.
Yeah, 100%. I wanted to say, I ran across the TikTok earlier today as I was cooking some steaks outside in the barbecue. I found it was a great statement. It was basically talking about the reversal, right? The pump for Bitcoin, saying that the best way, if you're against this war, if you want to protest this war right now in Russia, in Moscow, the Russian people are trying to protest in the city because they're against the war, right? And there's a lot of people all around the world, whatever, they're all hands up about it. The best way to protest is to buy Bitcoin, right? Every Bitcoin you buy, every Bitcoin that an American buys, that a non-Russian government buys, is one less Bitcoin they will have.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
For the whole Swift system, if they get taken out of the Swift system, that's one less Bitcoin they get. So if you want to be, against this war and not against Russia, buy Bitcoin. That'd be the best way to protest against them and be, at the same time you're helping out the crypto community.
So literally, so imagine it, right? So every single Bitcoin gets bought up, right? I know this is not going to happen, but
the U.S. just buying Bitcoin right now is going to put Russia on a stronghold, right? Like they're going to be like, oh snap, there might not be enough Bitcoin for us.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is it would drive the prices so freaking parabolic with like literally dried up supply, and then but the problem then becomes with that is that, Miguel, I know how against you are XRP, and you say that you would never, ever, ever, ever buy or sell or whatever. It would be kind of like that, where like people, the price would get so lucrative when like Russia's like, hey, like we got to get in on some Bitcoin, right? And so trust me, bro, the better part of greed is going to get a hold of some people. They're going to be like, I know I'm against this war, but a $486,000 Bitcoin. I mean, hey, I gotta take care of the family here. But yeah,
unless the war drags on for the next couple of years and Bitcoin has explosive price movement. But I mean, if the war lasts less or so, if it's just a small conflict like we saw in 2014, I totally agree, dude. Bitcoin is not going to have such an explosive price where people are going to be like, let me throw my morals out the window here real quick for some profit. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think that this thought process that I just mentioned, right? It sounds silly and all that stuff, but it's actually what I think is going to lead into the Bitcoin war. I've tweeted about it today multiple times to different accounts. They're talking about the war and Bitcoin, and I was saying Bitcoin war is inevitable. It's inevitable, and this is it. This is countries that hoard more Bitcoin over other countries will put pressure on those countries. Right, they contain more hashing power than other countries. they would allow for, if let's say the world was on a Bitcoin standard, right? If the NATO allies all held more than 51% of Bitcoin transaction or Bitcoin hashing power, then Russia does its thing, and then we say, wait a minute, we don't need to kick you out of the SWIFT system, but we can control enough hashing power to not let your transactions get through and make sure that they don't happen.
You want
to? There'll be hash wars through Bitcoin. It doesn't even have to be a legit hot war. It can just be Cold War. It's a whole new level of sanctions at that point.
You want to know something I thought was really interesting? And I thought this was actually crazy. This really surprised me. So Fearless Rebel said, do you guys know the history after and in war? So I do. I looked this up earlier because I was curious. Check this out. This, I think, will blow your mind. The average number of days, number of trading days. Okay. Now we're talking about the stock market, obviously, here. But the average number of trading days to get back what was lost in, I don't know how many it was, but it was like 30 different major geopolitical events. Guess what the average number, I'll let you guys guess. Guess what the average number of trading days it took to get back the loss, basically get back to where they were pre-conflict. Guess how many trading days?
30.
Okay, what do you think, Miguel?
6 months?
It was 47 trading days, which ultimately, right? That's what,
months-ish.
9. That's 9 weeks. I mean, that's literally 9 full trading weeks. I was really surprised by that. That just isn't that long. And so
that's the stock market.
And that's
so
the stock
Bitcoin
market,
can
right?
recover a lot faster.
That's exactly what I was getting at. And so I want to say, like, sometimes people do get all antsy and up in arms and I got to do something right now. You don't. Right. It ultimately, things will recover. And we do know that Bitcoin and the crypto markets do bounce a lot harder, a lot faster. Paul, you look like you're about to say something.
You remember that S&P 500 chart I've made for you guys?
Yeah.
I didn't look at it till actually.
You got a little tidbit for us. You got a little something to show us.
Nothing crazy, but it's just interesting to note, right? So when we were looking at this the other day, this was pretty much what we threw up on there. It was just pretty much a couple of quarterly key levels. And this is the daily time frame, so the day is obviously closed. And when we fell through here earlier today, obviously we fell, pretty much straight through. You could have been going further, but this, when you look for those candles to close and get that closure for support, you know where it scooted back up above, closed right back above this quarterly key level. So wild. With that being said, too, you got like, well, I don't know. Yeah, you got like daily bullish divergence on here too for the S&P. So, I mean, I would imagine that we'll probably start seeing some turnaround here, whether it's going to be all-time highs or not. It's probably going to, we always get those green days after these pullbacks. And then today was just a perfect, day to attest to that, that if you were really going by all this, the fear in the news, especially towards the lows, right? It was getting real bad earlier today when everything was really getting announced, or not really today, I guess before the markets open, like you said, right? Because everything was going short, markets open, then we actually pumped. Then we had a speech and whatever else the case may be. And like I said, that's why for me, it's tough to like keep up with the news and all this and all that too. I guess if you want to, whatever, it's, once again, it works for people. And there's nothing against that, but it is, this doesn't make sense, right? If you're thinking, and then even just thinking back to our, 2020 March, this really doesn't make sense, from a news standpoint at all, right? But here we are. So
here we are. Yeah, no, dude, and that's why we bring you on, Paul. We need that fresh perspective. Miguel and I are, learning more and more and more trading just to be more, better and well-rounded at what we do. But I think Miguel would agree with this. The past 5 years for us have been buying and holding and then just randomly making some moves here and there. And so we bring you on for that fresh perspective and to really learn on the TA side of things, because the reality is, if you would have told me 6 months ago, if we would have sat down even 6 months ago and you would have said, you know what, I don't pay attention to the news and ultimately it's not going to make me trade any differently, I would have told you were freaking nuts. I would have told you lost your mind because initially the way that my mind processes it, it says, well, listen, there has to be an impact on a major news event, whether it's positive, negative, whether it goes the way you think, whether it doesn't. But the reality is, you're right. It's not always major news event, and then everybody scrambles and does the exact same thing. Ultimately, there's a lot of buy and sell orders that are already in because people like certain price points. There's a lot of major key levels where, you know, a lot of these whales were buying. They don't want it to push down below. There's so many other mitigating factors that it's a really good point that, yes, it will affect it in the short term. But with any sort of time, it seems to, and it doesn't even seem like it takes much time at all. It bounced even today back to some key levels.
One day. If you would have woke up today and not looked at the market yesterday, you'd be above where we were yesterday, you know, most of the day before even the crash, right? So it's nutty how it plays out.
For sure, dude. Well, Crypto Fam, listen, we appreciate each and every one of you for being here. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate all the support. Just as a reminder, a couple things real quick. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Make sure you check out CVO's group over on Discord. How do they link up with you again over there, Paul?
If you're interested, you'd have to go through Twitter or my YouTube channels have the link on there.
Okay.
And you can join that. It is in Discord.
I mean, you can send us the link. We'll put it down in the description of the video.
Okay. If you want to send us a link, we'll put that down below the video. That's perfect. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter, Debate Crypto OG. Again, we appreciate each.
This Saturday is the debate, pro versus the pro NFT and the negative side of NFTs. With DZ, the host of Around the Blockchain, is going to be debating a surprise figure, guys. Surprise. So you got to tune in for Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time for the NFT debate.
Yeah, make sure you guys are there. So, question everything.